You're listening to Big Blend Radio's English Connection Show with Glynn Burrows, owner of Norfolk Tours. Hey, everybody, welcome. Today, we're going to go to the chapel, or maybe we're going to go to a medieval priory, maybe a fancy castle with beautiful gardens. We're going to England to talk about weddings in England as an awesome destination. Maybe it's part of your family history. Maybe you live there, or maybe you're going as part of the wedding party. Glynn Burrows is back to tell us all about getting hitched in the UK. So welcome, Glynn. How are you?
Oh, yeah, I'm fantastic. Thanks. How are you
Do you
today?
doing good, doing good. Do you say
Good.
getting hitched in England?
Well, I did it in 1983, so it can't be too bad, can it?
Yeah, no, you're still there, and Diane's still there, and still
Exactly.
eating scones, right? So that's
Oh, of
you.
course.
Oh, listen, do you get to have scones in a wedding at the party after, right?
You can. Yeah, you can have what you like at a wedding. We call it a wedding breakfast, but actually it's in the afternoon or the evening, but it's always called the wedding breakfast. So you can have what you
Okay.
like, literally
Okay,
anything.
well, over here, and everyone, Glenn's got an article linked in the show notes. You can read it on blendradioandtv.com. It's got photos of these different locations because you get into the fact that we can have themes, or special interests,
Yeah.
all kinds of. It's pretty exciting. Sounds like a good way to have a party to me, but um,
Any excuse.
any excuse, right? But let's get into some of the lingo, should we say? Like you say, it's a breakfast.
Yeah.
So here in the States, and I don't know if it's happening in England, a lot of people are going for small weddings, elopements. Not and some,
Yeah.
I mean, the big ones are still happening, the big
Yes.
grand balls, and depends on, everyone's budget, let's put it honestly, right? And the size of the family and everything. But
Quite.
when it comes to how it happens in this country, we have the rehearsal dinner like the night before. Of course, there's the bachelor and bachelorette parties that happen before that, and
Yeah.
then, well, that's the test to see if marriage will really happen after whatever happens on those nights, right? That happens in
Sometimes.
England, bachelor and bachelorette parties.
Yeah, we have them, um, but most of them nowadays are sort of quite I don't know, sort of team building type things. Very often you'll find that the groom
Oh,
will go away for the day with his mates, and they might go, I don't know, abseiling, or they might go into a town and do some stupid things. I mean, when Edmund got married, our son, we went to a sort of an adventure park place where we did abseiling, we did zip lining, we
oh,
did
cool.
sort of assault course things. I had to go everything. I loved it. We
Mm.
jumped off a thing which was, I don't know, about 30 foot high, and you just jump off, and it's got a wheel on it that slows you down, hopefully, before you hit the ground. So there was all these silly little things that we did, and then in the evening, we all went to Norwich, and the young men had a pub crawl,
Okay,
which is what young men do, and
sure.
luckily I was driving, so that was all right.
Oh, that's a good thing. Yeah, right. That's the beauty of Glenn as a tour guide too. Is that you have a driver in there too that knows
Yeah,
to and knows how to drive on that side of the road as well. That's the
well,
other thing,
exactly.
right?
And Zoe, Edmund's wife, she went to York, and they went to I think they went to a chocolate factory,
Oh,
and then they went to a an evening event where they mixed cocktails, and then they all went
oh,
to a nightclub. So yeah, that's all a bit of fun. It's just
yeah.
team building and family building. Because I mean, I went to Edmund's party, Diane went to Zoe's party, and Diane's Zoe's mum. So it's a whole family thing. It's not just young kids going, it's the
Yeah.
whole family, so that everybody gets together. It's
That's
all,
nice. And the friends,
yeah, exactly.
and that's the thing when you first get married, you need a network. And you always need a network
Of
to help
course.
you through it, and just
Yeah,
get started. And it's like, oh, now I have to cook. What are you talking about? No,
yeah.
so that's a good
Well,
thing. Yeah. But now, so you've got the bachelorette parties.
yeah,
The rehearsal dinner is usually about how to walk down the aisle and all the protocols of what people are
yeah.
supposed to
We
do.
we don't have a dinner for that. It's normally just the bride and groom and the parents like for instance, again,
Yeah, it's the
when
wedding
Verity got
party.
married, we went, and so we knew what we were doing. But there isn't a dinner or anything like that necessarily. It's just it's the wedding party.
Yeah, it's a
So,
wedding party, but it has like the wedding rehearsal dinner is normally either sometimes can be very casual. Everybody goes gets pizza or something later, but it just depends on on what you want to do. And then the next day is like here's the wedding,
yeah,
and you hope the bride arrives, and there
let's
you
hope
go.
so.
But
Yeah,
you're so we have a reception, which is what happens after the
yeah.
wedding, and
That's
so
right. We
that's
have
your
the
breakfast.
reception. Yeah, that's what in England we call that the wedding breakfast, which
Okay,
is after the ceremony, and then we have the reception.
okay.
So yeah, you have the meal, and then you have the knees up in the evening. So it's
Oh,
all
the knees up.
yeah,
I
the
beg your
party,
pardon.
the dance, the knees
Okay.
up, the
Okay.
party.
Well, hey, party. All right. I like that. So you talk about in your article, which I think is really interesting, about people getting married by location of their surname. This is fascinating. This
Yes.
is something we've never touched. We've done a lot of wedding shows over the years, but
Yeah.
never, ever thought of this one. This is good.
Well, a lot of people have a surname which is a place.
Hmm.
So actually, the one that I gave you an example of, this particular young man wanted to get married in the village of his name. So we'll say his name is London, right? His surname is, so say his name is Jack London, and he wanted to get
Hmm.
married in London.
Jack, we love
So
Jack London, the
yeah,
writer. So,
yeah. Well, there you go. But I mean, say for instance, his name is Fred Gressenhall, where I live. He could get married in Gressenhall Church. Obviously, you need to do a lot of arrangements to do that, but that is a possibility. So if your name is a place name, if you're Mr. Norwich and you want to
mhm,
get married in Norwich, then why not? This is what this young couple did, and they got married in the village. I won't mention it, obviously. They
mm,
got married in the village that is their surname. So that
awesome.
really sort of brought it all together, and it was a lovely. And you were saying about a small wedding. I mean, it was only a very, very small wedding because there was, well, how many of them were there? 16, 15 or
Oh,
16.
yeah.
But then they had a big party when they got home, for
Mm,
all their friends and family who couldn't make it to England, obviously. So they came and had their actual wedding in the village church,
uh-huh.
and then when they got home, they had a get together.
Oh,
You
see,
know,
I
it's
know a lot of people will fly to another country to support, like the bridesmaids and,
yeah,
best friends will, or family, right? Will
yeah,
fly to England, if that's where the couple is. So I know you as a tour guide, there's always that built-in thing of, hey, we're in England for a friend's wedding, so let's go do something as
exactly.
part of it, take
Yeah.
advantage of, you've flown over there, you might as well go explore and do something you've really wanted to do in England.
Yeah, I mean that's what this family did. I mean they all actually met up in the village that they were going to have the wedding in, and then
Hmm.
afterwards they split away. So some of the family went back to London, and some of the family I took down to Cornwall because that's where they wanted to go on to
Okay.
after the wedding. So
Ooh.
I took some of the family and dropped them in London, and then I kept driving all the way down to Cornwall, and that's where I dropped off some of the other family who then
No.
wanted to continue their holiday in Cornwall. But that's what you can
Mm.
do, isn't it?
Mm.
It's an open book. You can do what you like.
Yeah,
That's the
it's like
interesting thing.
a wedding is like really, it's about a celebration of someone's love,
Yeah,
a couple's love for each other. So you do something unique. And I think now, the generation now that are getting married are more just like our travelers, right? Travelers want an authentic experience that's unique
yeah,
and goes with something that transforms them, that they learn from, that it's a true experience. And I think that's where weddings are going now. It's like, please don't make me do the same thing just because that's what it's always been done. I want something that's unique. Like I know a lot of people get married and their ring bearer is their dog. You
yeah. Oh,
know,
yes,
you know what
yes.
I mean? Well, I know you're in England, so I can imagine how many bulldogs and corgis go.
Well,
It's the
exactly.
corgis. Come on.
But I mean, nowadays anything goes. I mean, when Diane and I got married in the church that's behind me,
Mhm.
you know, it was a normal sort of 1980s wedding where, you know, we had a best man and you know the bridesmaids, and then we went to the one of the local villages for the reception afterwards. You know, it was just a normal wedding, but now anything goes. You can do
Yeah.
whatever you like. You know, you can get married in the venue, which is something that didn't really happen when we got married. You got married in a church or a registry office in England. But now
Mhm.
you can get a special license so you can get married wherever you want up to a point,
Well,
you
yeah,
know,
I
which
mean,
is
just some
lovely.
of the castles, and I know like behind
Yeah.
us, behind me, that's a medieval priory, right? And it says
Yes.
ruins, but there is a romantic feel to it. Could you
Yes.
imagine getting married in actual ancient history, outdoors in
Exactly.
the sunshine, right? And I
Yeah.
know that they have a room. I can see there's a room in there. You can go inside if it rains, because
Yeah.
you are in
Exactly.
England, right?
Yeah.
But rain is a good luck symbol, isn't it? I think for weddings.
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't
So,
know.
don't ask me about weddings, man. It didn't work for me. So anyway, mine lasted 6 months.
Oh,
So
wow. That long.
and yeah, well, and I got married on a pier. Actually,
Oh,
in
right.
court. I got married in a court, and then we had to get friends and family. It's very
Yeah.
small, and it was on a dock, so like
Oh,
over the
right.
river,
Lovely. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
was pretty good. Um, oh, do you have that like where people can get married like on a because you've got those famous piers, you know?
Exactly. Like I say,
Oh,
you can, as long as you can get a license to get married where you want to get married, most places you can sort it out. You know,
mm,
I mean, obviously, if it's a privately owned establishment, I mean, like the place behind you is Castleacre. Now, Castleacre
okay,
Priory belongs to English Heritage. So to get a license to get married at Castleacre Priory, you need special permission from English Heritage. But
okay.
you know, most organisations now are quite amenable because obviously it's another income stream.
Yes.
You know,
I know a lot of farmers who do it as another
exactly.
income stream.
Yeah. I
Bed
mean,
and
a lot of
breakfast. Oh, COVID,
exactly,
COVID changed the wedding landscape. In
exactly.
during COVID, a lot of bed and breakfasts ended up being the spot where they could
Yeah,
do small elopements, small weddings, and then
yeah,
video it on Zoom because it's inside like in a historic Victorian mansion.
yeah,
Things
yeah,
like
yeah.
our friend Stephen Karen, The Lion and the Rose. Hey, that's an English
Exactly.
connection.
Yes.
They do it, and they have garden weddings, but it's something small. And what's beautiful about it is they can rent out the bed and breakfast. So like their main suite will be
Yeah.
for, the bride and groom. And, there's areas for where the bridesmaids can do everything with the makeup. And
Yep.
it's
Yep.
really easy for the immediate party to be there. And just, you're just going downstairs. It's called entrapment for the bride.
Yeah, I mean the same. Yeah, you remember we had Catherine on once from one of the
Yeah.
B and Bs that I use, a medieval B and B. I mean, she does the marquee on the lawn. You know, the great big marquee. She has what she calls her goat shed.
What do
Uh,
you what okay, a marquee is a little bit different maybe
a
for
marquee
here.
is a great big
Big
tent.
tent. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
She has the her goat shed, which is a fantastic big.
No
Um,
way.
it's more like
Weddings
an
with
apartment.
goats? Wait a minute. So
No,
I
no,
could
no,
see
no,
the
no, no, no. It used to be a goat shed. Now it's
okay.
a fantastic apartment, self-contained apartment. And then
Okay.
she's got the house where she can let the rooms, where she has her normal B&B, and she also has a really nice sized room where you could have the reception or you could have something else going on as
The
well as the
breakfast.
marketing. You know, so
Yeah.
this is what's going on now.
Mhm.
And also, I mean, like I said in the article, I've just actually had contact with somebody who they own a great big country house with about 12 bedrooms, I think it is, and you can have the wedding on site. So you could have a marquee, you've got the entire house, you've got other rooms that you've got available in the area because they do B&Bs and they do self-catering accommodation. So some of the family could live
That's
in
cool.
barns in the village. And then you've actually got an on-site brewery, which you know, you've got beer.
Now you're talking my
Yeah,
style.
yeah, exactly. You know,
A
you've got
brewery wedding.
everything there. And
Mm.
actually, what you can do there is you can have a real Downton Abbey type experience because they even bring in butlers and maids, so you can have a proper Downton Abbey service,
Oh,
within the house.
oh.
So you can have anything you want. The world's your oyster.
Well, it's a theme party to me is always fun. I remember in South Africa, as a little girl, Nancy and our friends who are musicians, they would have these theme parties in the pub, basically. And they did call it a pub in South Africa, like a shipwreck party, because they were, people, we lived on the coast. They would
Yeah.
have these well, I don't think you would do this as a wedding idea. It was come as you, well, we did one that was come as you were in your previous life. That was interesting. And then one, there's a lot of men in togas. I don't know what was going on with that, but but we had one as come as a child, as a 4-year old, and
Okay.
bring your own toy. And by the end of the night, everybody was on the lawn acting like children and fighting over their toys. I am not kidding you. But I mean, if you're interested in toys, that could be kind of fun. I can imagine it's like
Yeah.
I think the whole princess thing is kind of over. The Cinderella and all of that. Some people may really want it, but I think,
Yeah.
couples, I know people who skydive as a wedding
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Why not? Like I
Yeah.
say,
Oh, you could do it in
whatever.
Norfolk. You have the skies for it. You're
Well,
the Air
exactly.
Force area.
I mean, whatever you want, you can really do. You can get married, jumping out of an aeroplane if you want. You can get married on a pier, which goes out over the sea. You can
That's
you
awesome.
can get married in a castle. You can get married in a
Wow.
priory or in an abbey or in a medieval church, or you can get married in the middle of a field. You
Gardens. Oh my gosh,
you
the gardens in England. Are you kidding me? To get
exactly
married in an English country
anything
garden? Come on.
with
That
all the roses and the
Oh, now
little
I might go and get married now.
thatch cottages. I mean, how romantic
Oh,
is a thatch cottage? You
yeah,
know,
just even just being in a little village to me sounds
yeah,
like magical. They
yeah,
yeah, and then to even have kind of a very English, wedding with music from that, like proper English music, like historical music, the
yeah. I
Celtic
mean,
sounds.
you
That
can
would
have
be
you can have whatever you like. That is
okay.
that is the thing nowadays. Anything, excuse me, anything goes. You know,
Hmm.
you can have the reception in an old barn.
Well, when
One
you
of these
mentioned the
old
goat,
barns.
the goat house, kind of
Yeah, the
the
goat
goat.
shed.
Now the goat shed, I got excited because people do goat yoga with goats,
Yeah, they
because
do.
yoga.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So I'm like, I bet you there's people who have had yoga goat wedding things. You know what I mean? Because
Why not?
ooh,
I'm
ooh, speaking of
open-minded.
that, I want to know about yoga retreats in England. I bet you there's yoga
Yeah.
retreats. We need to
One
talk
I
about
went
that one
to
point. Yeah.
One I went to last year, actually. They do yoga retreats, and actually their accommodation is all in tree houses. Now,
What?
tree
Treehouse
houses.
weddings.
Well, you could have a
Seriously.
treehouse wedding, yeah. But I mean, the accommodation are all in these great big tree houses. They're all like, fantastic bedrooms and ensuite bathrooms and TVs and everything, if that's what you want. But they're all actually in trees. So you've got a yoga retreat in a beautiful estate, country house, lovely. You've got a river running through the garden. You've got all these lawns going down to the
Mm.
garden, and then when you go to bed in a tree house. How lovely is that?
That's awesome for a wedding, but even the yoga, because I know a lot of people who have weddings, and yoga is actually part of
Yeah,
the celebration before. There's a lot of people who are not into the big party, and they want this more of a body, mind, and spirit connection as a group.
yeah, yeah,
So I think that's another way things are going. It's like you're drinking wheatgrass juice in the morning instead, of the champagne. But
yeah.
if
Why
that's what
not?
you want, why not?
Yeah,
That's exactly it. Um, so you've got all these unique locations, destinations, as small and as big as you want to go. I mean, the castles.
yeah,
I think it's interesting too. Like you've got all these very historic places that people could get married under. You've talked about the big oak trees and things like that. So remember that
Yeah,
really big oak tree you were talking about? I was thinking about where if people wanted to have like a Robin Hood themed wedding under
yes.
that oak tree. It could, do you think? Like
Well,
even
I don't
Stonehenge
know.
weddings. Ooh,
I don't know whether you can get married under the great oak in Sherwood Forest, but
ooh,
we have got some magnificent trees. Well, I mean the same in America. I mean, I know I'm talking about England, but I'm sure that you can get married in lots of different places in America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia. Um, but within nature, you know, there are so many beautiful places that you could get married. You know,
yeah.
like I say, over the water is a beautiful place to get married.
Mm,
On board a sailing barge, you know,
ooh,
how lovely would that be? Just going through the countryside, because you know we've got the Norfolk Broads that I talk about a lot. You know, going on a wherry, which is a great big sailboat. You know, fantastic big sails. How beautiful is that? Nice. Just all you hear is the whoosh of the
oh.
boat going through the water and the wind in the sails. You
I
know,
love it. I love that.
so
And then Glenn, you talk about nature and a lot of folks are outdoor enthusiasts and have
yeah,
weddings like on a whitewater raft out here and things like that and hiking. A lot of people get married in national parks in this
yes,
country, like
yeah,
Yosemite and Yellowstone, and they even have a chapel in Yosemite National Park, very
right,
historic little chapel because there were actual communities in there.
yeah, of
So I
course.
was wondering about people getting married, maybe out, even, you've got all these walking paths, like you've got Petter's Way,
Well,
historically
exactly.
the
I
old
mean,
Roman
like I
road.
say, I can't see that there would be a problem in getting
Mm,
a license to get married
mm.
in most places.
Ooh, like the Lake District.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Beatrix Potter, you know, where
Oh,
she
could you imagine that theme? We could all get dressed up as bunnies,
as Peter
not the
Rabbit.
Playboy bunnies. Just saying,
Yeah, well,
that's not going to
yeah,
go well.
you could
But
do.
you never
But
know.
but you know, there are so many places and so many
Mm,
opportunities. Like there's one I did speak about in my article, I think, about getting married on a steam train. You know, something
that's
like,
cool.
but it's all about you thinking what you want as a couple and then going for it. Because
No, yeah, but that's
why not?
fun.
Why not ask?
Yeah, and I think doing a theme better is sometimes more fun than having this big over grand typical thing where you're worried about the color of balloons. Let's look at,
Yeah,
and try to have an environmental footprint. I think is you if you do these historic sites, you're helping keep these historic sites actually open and
yeah,
protected. So you're part of
exactly.
preservation and conservation
Yeah,
when you have and it makes you have a light-footed approach. Like balloons are not the best healthiest thing for the environment, you
definitely
know.
not.
And not rice is not good either. Don't throw rice. It's not good for the birds. So there's certain things to change up now as we look at weddings is to have a better lighter footprint, especially when
Yes.
we have a group of people. So if you can think about these historic sites and natural areas, we've got to behave ourselves, but you're helping at the same time with
Yeah.
awareness too.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, not being funny, when I said about the big country house that's got its own brewery attached to it, you know,
Nice.
I mean, that sort of thing has got sort of like a food mile idea there of very little because I mean they actually own a great big estate. So a lot of the food that they serve in the area comes off the estate. So,
It's
you know, you
amazing.
could easily have a wedding with a theme of food miles being next to nothing. And
That's
especially
awesome.
seeing the beer that you're drinking, I think the furthest it goes is about 10 miles where the barley goes from the farm to the I've forgotten the name of the thing that you do when you do barley for beer,
The
but
hops.
malting. No, the
Oh, molting.
malting.
Okay.
The maltings goes about 10 miles and then it comes back again and it's turned into beer. The hops have to be brought in from outside Norfolk, but you know, everything else is has got hardly any miles to it.
See,
And
that's
then
really, really
just
cool. And you're
nothing.
helping small business, which I love
Exactly.
too. And
Yeah,
you're getting a true taste of England if you're doing it this way.
exactly.
I know
Exactly.
you like everything localized, you don't want
Well, that's what it's all
the
about,
mass
isn't it?
production. Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. Mass produced weddings versus this kind of
Yeah.
wedding
And I
is,
mean, if you're going to go to England for a wedding, you know, you might as well have real England rather than go to England for a wedding and then taste
Mhm.
stuff that's brought in from Spain, you
And
know.
the other thing I've learned with all these wedding shows we've done is to work with the place that you're going to get married in. They
Yeah.
have the vendors that they work with because
Yes.
they know if you're getting a cake, the people know how to transport. If you're up in the mountains, say, and you think you're going to take your cake up in the mountains, good luck. You know what's going to happen to that cake if you don't know how to drive country roads and mountain roads. But
Yes, right.
the people that already work with that establishment know the back door, know
Yeah.
about everybody knows the quirk of a historic building at that point as well. They know how
Yeah.
to work together to pull things off. But if you bring somebody new in, it that can you never know. You know what I mean?
No,
And
no, that's right.
sometimes it's worth it to just maybe even pay that little extra to let everyone do it for you, you know, because sometimes people do the big potluck and everything, and that can be good, but that's where the drama starts. So sometimes I'm just saying, you want the no drama wedding. Have a good time instead of the drama. And
Yeah.
doing these experiences, I think gets rid of the drama.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of venues that will actually do everything for you. So you just tell them that you want a wedding, you want this, and this. And if you just leave them to get on with it, that after all, they're the experts.
Hmm.
And like you say, they've got all their suppliers, they've got everything in place, they know what they're doing. And
Mm.
sometimes, you might want a bit more control. But, if you talk to the wedding venue, they're the ones who know what they're doing. They can give you the control if that's
Hmm.
what you want, but work with them, like you say, work in partnership with the people who are doing it because they know what they're doing, you
Yeah.
know. And I do really want to tell you about the one. It's one of Edmund's mates. He got married in well, not actually, he didn't get married in the fairground, but he got married and then they went to the fairground museum for the reception, and they had to go on these old fashioned roundabouts, and all these
Carousels.
steam engine, yeah, carousels and all these steam engine things. And it's just another theme. It's
Yeah.
just something
That's
different.
fun though. That's
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
playful. That's fun.
Having to go on the old fashioned fairgrounds at your wedding reception, and also you've got another backdrop for your photos,
Mm,
you know,
that's the
because
other thing. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, so
Absolutely.
often you on a wedding day, yeah, I mean, if it rains, then your outside photos are sort of not so good. But if you've got an inside venue that's got something going for it, you've got all these extra
Yeah.
photo opportunities, you know.
Hmm.
It's
And
just open book. You do what you like.
I wanted to ask you about um actually I know a couple who got married and dived into their swimming pool, and the photographer filmed them diving in under the pool, and it turned out really cool.
Yeah,
But I wanted to ask you, what about military weddings? Over here, the different, if it's Army, Navy, Marine, there's actual military protocol for these weddings. And I was thinking that if someone has military history in their family, that would be kind of cool to go to one of those old airfields. And are
yeah.
there, if someone's family would the military come out and be part of that if someone's ancestors were in the Air Force or something like that?
Well, that would be something that I could ask
Yeah.
because, if you don't ask, you don't get. This is exactly what I say. What anybody's got to think about is what do I want,
Hmm.
and then see if it's possible. You know, so
And
if you
all the people out there, so there it
well,
is. Call Glynn.
exactly. I
Hmm.
mean, by you saying that, I know a lot of people who do what you call reenactment. So, say for instance,
Oh,
your
wow.
ancestor was in the American Air Force during the Second World War. Um, I I I know people who do reenactments of the Second World War. So you can get people who are dressed in the proper uniforms who could be the Guard of Honor, for instance.
Oh my gosh, could you imagine the party, everybody dressed up in that era of clothing and that
Well,
music?
Yeah, can you
Like a
imagine
World War II
Glenn
parties. World
Glenn
War II
Miller?
parties are, yes, World War II parties are the best. They
Yeah,
really are. I mean, it's
and
just
and
stylish, you know?
and funnily enough, coincidence. This last week I've been doing a family history course, and one of the men actually is a singer in a big band. He's a big band
Oh,
singer, you know. So I mean,
you
it's
never,
it's
yeah.
all about finding the right person to do the job. So if you, for instance, you wanted a Glenn Miller wedding, then I now know somebody who actually goes and does that professionally. He's a
Mm.
professional crooner, you know.
Oh,
90, he specializes in 1930s and 40s big band music.
I
So
love it.
it is all about think about what you want and then see if you can get it.
Mm.
Ask.
Mm. I love it. I love it, Glynn. Everyone, norfolk-tours.co.uk is the website for Glynn. His article is linked in the show notes. It's up on blendradioandtv.com. So go get hitched in England, whether you're doing an elopement. Glynn will take you around if you just want to have the two of you in a garden, hey, or
Yep.
wherever you want to do. Glynn will help you to also working with your wedding party and having make all those connections for something really special. Thanks so much, Glynn.
You're welcome. Lovely to talk about weddings. Yes, got me thinking.
Uh-oh. Thank you for joining us for Big Blend Radio's English Connection show with Glynn Burrows, owner of Norfolk Tours. If you're planning a vacation to England or looking up your family history in England, visit norfolk-tours.co.uk to connect with Glynn. Keep up with our shows at bigblendradio.com.